Hello there, my rosebuds. Welcome back to my rose garden. Hey, we're going to be looking at a date, like the sort of Greg Foreman is Jack something. I don't even know what his last name is. Oh, you're basically in the Republican view and the Democratic view. Now, this debate's split in three different ways. I'm not going over all three parts. I'm going to go over the first two parts. Third one wasn't worth it. Wasn't worth watching, to be honest. So yeah, this video here will consist of the first one, which will revolve around the trends in sports. Okay, get started.
Hey guys, I'm Brad Palumbo here with a new series where I break down the biggest political stories of the week with political influencers across the spectrum. I'm here with Greg Foreman and Jack Cacciarella. Guys, thanks for coming
Your relic, that's your relic.
on.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Of course. Well, up first, we're going to talk about the Supreme Court because it is common sense on trial. This week, the Supreme Court heard a case concerning the future of trans athletes in America, particularly transgender girls and women, who are, of course, born biologically male. Various red states have passed laws restricting their ability to play in women's and girls' sports, and these laws have been challenged by the likes of the ACLU and Lambda Legal, arguing that they constitute unconstitutional and unlawful discrimination. But it's not just these activist groups. Over 130 congressional Democrats signed an amicus brief siding with the trans athletes in this case, including potential 2028 frontrunners or party leaders like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. Now, of course, the logic of these activists and of this side could effectively erase the female sports category as a distinct biological category, and with a conservative Supreme Court majority, they're probably not going to win this case. But it does serve as a bellwether for what the Democratic Party is standing behind. And it also puts them on the opposite side of some of their own voters. A 2025 New York Times poll found that nearly 7 in 10 Democratic leaning voters oppose biologically male born athletes competing in women and girls' sports. That's a level of bipartisan consensus you don't see very often. So are Democratic officials
That's the setup for this debate. So I think I say he actually did a rather good job at setting this all up. He has. But yeah, let's get started with the debate, shall we?
on the wrong side of history on this question, and are they going to lose at the Supreme Court? Jack, tell me why I'm wrong to think Democrats are coming down on the wrong side of this question.
Well, because I don't really think Democrats are coming down on it necessarily. You saw the Trump campaign in 2024, and you can say maybe this was a successful message for them or not. I think maybe some of the other topics they were discussing were a little bit more relevant, but spent $37 million talking about transgender athletes. I don't think Kamala Harris spent even a dime in her campaign messaging that this was going to be the central civil rights issue that she cared about the most. But I
Oh, because here's what the deal is. Trump was smart about it. Made one ad, but I he's for, uh, if he's for us, she's for them. That's it. And Kamala Harris spent all of her money on paying people to see what's what I'm looking for. Say that they're for her. Oprah, Roland Martin, but this. That's where all Kamala Harris money went to.
I just think that the rights obsession is what is driving this conversation rather than anything that the left is upholding. Sure, Democrats who feel principled about this issue want to stand in their principles, and I think for any political miscalculation you could say that is, which I don't believe so. What might be worse is having previously stated that you believe that trans athletes should just be able to play sports as all young people growing up who like to spend time with their friends want to. But what would be much worse for the Democratic Party, in my opinion, as it is still viewed in this moment, fighting back against Trump as a little weak and feckless, would be to retreat from a position you previously held. So are Democrats standing too much in this issue? No, they're responding to a Republican obsession. I think that's how it should be framed. And if it is, I think it's going to be a lot less politically toxic than many pundits would make it out to be.
All right. So, anyways, he went off on the normal liberal rant about the usual Democratic talking points. Greg has already made this final what he's going to do. Has in second video going over this debate says that he went aggressive and hard as a as um, as apparently he watched both their content and stuff, talking points for him, or he can be ready for his debate. And he decided that if he starts off saying liberal nonsense, then there's no civil conversation. Let me let Greg say it. All right, I found the video, so let's hear what Greg expressions why he doesn't went so hard.
That is what it seems like because they're all the same. Okay. And that is the reason why I was so aggressive during this debate. And this is in response to some of the criticisms. Okay. And these are good faith criticisms. I appreciate the criticisms of my aggression during the first part of this debate about trans athletes. The reason why I was so aggressive is because I've studied these individuals, how they debate, and their talking points. And the conclusion that I came to is that if this dude started off this debate with disingenuous and ridiculous talking points, like, for example, when he started off the debate basically claiming that conservatives who are concerned about trans athletes in sports want to check the genitals of children, which I knew he was actually going to say that because I had watched the video of him making that same exact argument. I knew at that point that it was pointless for me to try to have a real conversation with him. And now the debate, since it was timed, right? We had a limited amount of time. The debate now became about, hey, I need to make sure that we stay on topic and I have to educate the audience about the topic. And I would rather win a debate and get my points across being aggressive, okay, and be criticized for being too aggressive, but clearly winning rather than to not be aggressive enough and to let this dude deflect, dodge, do whataboutisms, and to butt Trump his way throughout the whole debate while the debate strays off topic. And then basically it becomes a question about who won the debate. And that is something that I have picked up on in regards to what I think is the appropriate strategy to deal with these individuals is to be aggressive. You have to be aggressive and you have to stay on topic because if you don't, they're going to get off topic and they're going to try to run out the clock with a bunch of disingenuous talking points that have nothing to do with the actual topic, right? So that being said, let's go ahead.
Yeah, that was Greg's whole point of view of this, why he went so hard. So let's hear what he had to say in this debate.
So you don't think it's a problem that, for example, you have the head of the Democratic Women's Caucus in Congress signing this amicus brief saying that people who are born biologically male should be able to compete in women's sports? Because what I hear from a lot of people is that it's true this doesn't affect a lot of people. There are not a lot of transgender athletes. When Democrats say that, they're correct, but it's a sanity test, Jack, and it's one that a lot of people perceive Democrats to be failing. It's just basic common sense and biology that they're openly defying.
I think that there are plenty of rules and regulations. Spencer Cox, the governor of Utah, vetoed a bill having to do with greater government intervention in sports in middle school and high school. It just seems like if there's a common sense component to this, it's why is the government wanting to check children's like genitals before they play soccer in 6th grade. It just
That's
seems
just
like
called a
complete.
physical, Jack. That's a
It just
physical.
it just seems like complete overreach. So what? Any parent can come down from the stands, and if you're like hitting too many threes in the middle of a game, they can just like start to question you. It doesn't really make a lot of sense from a common sense perspective that this is what a political party would be wholly obsessed with spending all their time. It's just government overreach, and I think that's the common sense issue here. The NCAA, individual high schools, individual counties, they can police this as they please, and they have, and it's worked really well, and kids have been able to play sports. I think that's the most common sense thing. Do you
All
want
right.
young
I
kids
want to
to be
bring in
able to
Greg
hang out
here.
with their friends or not?
Get bikini season ready in 5 simple steps. With the new and improved Lumi IPL hand
I want to bring in Greg here. Tell us your take on this.
Yeah, so I love when progressives make these fake libertarian arguments as if they actually believe in small government.
Oh yeah, that's not what he just says. A plate of nonsense. I draw, check physical. You know how many times I showed up for a physical back when I used to be in sport, and the first thing doctor says, "Stop 'em." Seriously, that is part of a physical. Because it's a muscle down below that they actually check. Or do so, they got to put their hands underneath. Oh, you get the idea. Yeah, doesn't argue it was nonsense. It's all, and all Trumpism has nothing to do with this debate. Seriously, it doesn't.
They don't. In this situation, I mean, let's talk about the Supreme Court and the question that is actually being answered here. Before we get into how ridiculous this dude is when it comes to some of his statements and his extreme ideology, it is common sense. The Supreme Court is basically answering the question of what is sex and does it matter in sports? The answer to those questions are obvious. Clearly, sex does matter, and sex is defined based off biology, not based off gender ideology, which is
I wish I answered this question before. What is a woman? A woman is someone who is born as a woman, someone born with defective organs and has bigger structures, and their pelvis is hollowed out. A woman is a girl. It is simple. The trans woman is the biological male, someone who's born male, who has no reproductive organs, has a solid pelvis, has strong bones, larger muscles. And granted, I lost a lot of muscle mass since I've been on my hormone replacement therapy. I'm still stronger than my wife. But yeah, essentially, a trans woman is someone who wants to be more like a woman, but we can never be women because we weren't born women. Hormones can only do so much. Surgery can only take you so far. Nothing more than found in a disguise.
clearly what this guy believes in. Because obviously, if there was a definition of sex that essentially included whatever somebody feels, then that will undermine the whole purpose of Title IX. Okay. And they'll also undermine the whole purpose of women's sports. So you have to have a clear definition of sex in order to have women's sports in the first place. So it really is about defining what is fair and what is not fair. It's not discrimination. Nobody's picking on trans kids. We're simply just enforcing common sense. Now, I'm not sure how many 16-year-old girls need to see penises in locker rooms. How many women in prisons need to be raped? How many women need to lose gold medals in championships for Jack to understand that this is a big issue? This is not a small issue.
He has a solid point right there because that's why I don't go into women's spaces. I don't belong in women's spaces. I identify as a trans woman, but I can repeat woman. No one wants to see what I got between my legs. What do I want to show to them? Because this whole talk and not this is nonsense. It really is. Because we do not belong with the spaces, we do not belong with the sports, we do not put place or take the medals away in the locker rooms, in their bathroom. Whatever. That's not our place.
Where it's just Republicans and conservatives picking on the trans kids. I personally believe that if a 16-year-old girl sees a penis in a locker room, that is a big deal. Even if
Yeah, back in the day, that was called indecent exposure. You could have been arrested for that. But of course, Democrats changed the laws. Go figure.
it's just one, you have women being sexually assaulted. This is a big deal. This is not something.
Well, all right. I
It
will
sounds
say.
like it sounds
I
like
will
what
say.
you-
Hang on. I'll give Jack a
Let me
chance
finish,
to
let me
reply
finish,
here.
Let me finish.
All right.
And to claim that people who want to protect girls, 16-year-old girls, just want to check penises when all you got to do is check a birth certificate, really shows you how these individuals lack common sense. They are detached from reality. There's a reason why this is an 80-20 issue. Actually, you know what? I don't even believe that. The only 20% that actually agree with this lunacy, they're just saying it because they don't want to be called transphobic. It is a 95-5 issue. Everybody knows that it is unfair for biological boys to compete against biological girls in sports. Everybody knows this, but they can't acknowledge it. Democrats can't acknowledge reality because they do too much pandering to far left extremists who are a very small minority, but they're very loud. They're very loud in the Democrat Party. So this
I
is
do. So,
an
Greg,
issue
I
that
do
if
need to give
Democrats-
Jack
Yeah,
a chance.
I do have to jump
if
in here.
Democrats want to double and triple down on lunacy, if they want to double and triple down on being detached from reality, if they want to double and triple down on 16-year-old girls seeing penises in locker rooms,
So you
be my
keep
guest. Do what
you
you got to
keep
do.
making
Yeah. All right.
you keep
Give Jack a
making that
chance to
point,
reply
and
because
it sounds
you
like
said a
you're
lot of
making
things.
a really compelling case for Pam Bondi to stop blocking the release of the Epstein files. If you've seen
There he goes once again, going in towards Trump. That's not the testing files. That's not to do with Trump. But this is a left talking point. They immediately have to run over, start saying, "Oh, Trump, this, Pam Bondi, that, Epstein, this, Epstein, that." Want to know the truth? There's more photos of Bill Clinton with Epstein than Trump. Yes, at one point, Trump and Epstein was friends until Trump like he really was. But at that point, he cut him off and stuff from him. That's the truth. And traveled with me during this time on his island. That's the truth.
so concerned, because I just want to make it clear there have been more sexual misconduct allegations against Donald Trump than there are openly transgender
You're
college
deflecting.
athletes.
This doesn't have
So
anything
if you're caring about the safety of young girls,
Sorry about that. That was my partner in the other room. Back to the video.
maybe Donald Trump's administration should go forward with holding the disgusting criminals who were in Jeffrey Epstein's cabal of pedophiles accountable. I just think that if that's the issue that you want to tackle, maybe it's best served. You're focused there. But I don't understand this.
When it comes to that, I'm pretty sure you'll see more Democrats arrested than Republicans. I'm sure there's some Republicans still involved with Epstein, but you'll see more Democrats than Republicans being arrested. That's the case. It'll all be why and cry. It's all political.
This conversation that you're having about one, it is policing. That's what you're after. You're after a bigger government. One of the women in
Actually, the Republicans want a smaller government. The Democrats want a bigger government. Want you to rely on the government. The Republicans government wants you to rely on yourself. And it's there to help you in the hard times.
this case, her name is Lindsay Hecox. She competed at the club level when she was not allowed on her college's team, right? So do you think that that should be policed as well? Do you believe that club level sports, should the president of the United States be getting involved in club level sports? If I'm
Well, truth be told, you shouldn't have in the women's club level to begin with. But this is club level, the not main sports area.
in a run club, right, and I just like to get a quick jog in the morning, do you think
That's fine. You want to be a trans woman? They let you into the women's club. Women's club. Go out and just jog around. See it.
that that should be policed?
I
Club
think
level
that women
sports.
should not be forced. I think that women and girls
No,
should
but
not be
answer the question.
forced. And
Club
hold on,
level
I'm
sports.
answering the question. You're the one that tried to deflect to the Epstein files as if this has anything to do
I
with
don't
it.
think that that's a deflection. I think it's a real issue of people's safety.
I'm pretty sure that Midas Touch
and your handlers coach you on to do that, right? Oh, deflect to the Epstein files if he actually starts speaking common sense. That's what you leftists do. Has nothing to
All right, naked. You too. Also, whatever. Sorry about the commercial there.
do with the subject. So yeah, let's talk about what I actually want. I want women to have a choice, okay? I want women to not have to compete against biological males. I want women to not have to be exposed to penises in locker rooms. I want women to have their rights. If you want to stand against women's rights, go for it. Be my guest.
So,
But
Jack,
So yeah, this is for us now when it comes to political. Hey, I am an independent who leans more right than left. The reason why that is because I believe in common sense. I decided to become a trans woman. I didn't do it for everyone around me. I did it for me only. I don't care what everyone else around me thinks at all. No, I'm not doing it for oh how brave, how smart she is. No, not nonsense. For me. What else? But if you're becoming a trans individual to compete in sports or whatever, yeah, there's a problem.
Hold on, but transgender athletes can have a choice to compete in a third category. They don't want to do that. Nobody is opposed to transgender athletes competing against themselves, competing amongst themselves, or based off their biological sex, which is why, by the way, since we're talking about Supreme Court case, and again, I want to keep this legal, okay, not purely ideological, but legal. They're also talking about whether or not this is a violation of the Equal Protection Clause, right? No, it is not, because trans is not its own protected category like race. Okay, it's not a special thing. Ultimately, they're not being discriminated against. They can compete based on biological sex, and if given an opportunity, they can compete in co-ed. Again, if women have a choice if they want to compete, or if they want to compete based off, being trans or whatever, they can compete on themselves.
all right, Greg,
Yes, he's completely right. Trans women was given an option to, that's their call. If it been like a gender neutral condom, or trans women can compete and compete. One who wants it just compete can compete in there. They don't want that. They only want to compete against women. Period. Now, they're not doing it for fame, to become or win medals, then why is it that they only wish to compete against women? That's the question you need to be asking.
I have a question.
I get what you're saying.
I have a quick question because you seem very passionate about women's sports. Could you name me 5 female national champions over the past year in 5 different sports? You care very deeply about this issue.
That's a complete deflection there. Guys, you can care about women and women's sports without actually watching women's sports. So yeah, at this point, he's just deflecting.
That's irrelevant to the actual case.
But you care really deeply about the issue.
Okay, no, Jack. Let me ask you a question.
Hey, Jack, did that answer? Jack, why don't you answer it then? In 5 different women, 5 different sports. Come on, now.
Relevant
so
to the
you
case.
can't?
Any?
Caitlin Clark is not playing anymore, so you can't say that.
What do you define as sex?
Well, you didn't answer my question. I thought you cared very deeply about women's sports. It seems to be motivating a very emotional argument that you're making. There's not a lot of...
Guys, I'm going to reclaim the floor here. I understand your point, Jack. It is a bit of a gotcha because you don't have to actually be a fan of women's sports or follow it closely to believe it should exist as a separate category.
But that seems to be central to the argument is you're caring about, it's not even women's sports. You said fairness in competition.
What is sex? Jack, that's central.
I am curious, Jack. Can you give us an answer to the question, what is a woman?
I would really like to first...
I wouldn't doubt, like I said to these liberals, they can never answer this question at all.
First get an answer on any national champion. I did ask the question first. Again, Caitlin Clark, Iowa.
Okay,
I don't think South Carolina won last year.
What is sex, Jack? Can you answer the question? What is a woman? Define it.
I I don't know why you have to continue to ask just a
Because I'm
ridiculous
asking you
question.
questions relevant to the topic, the court case
Greg,
that
Greg,
you don't want
Greg.
to deal with because you
Let
elected
let me ask.
always
Let me
want to
hone in
deal with
on this.
emotion.
Greg,
I'm
Greg.
not arguing emotion. I'm arguing legal. What is
Jack,
sex?
I do think this is a question Democrats have to have an answer for. And when it comes to, is it policing? We have Title IX that says women and female sports must exist as a separate concept. It's legally mandated at colleges. So then you do have to have a legal definition and dispute over what is a woman and what is female. So what is your answer to that question? What is a woman?
I think that that's something that should be left up to these individual institutions. I think that, and not in terms of some broader definition. If we want to, pull up Merriam-Webster, we're more than happy to go for it. But I'm just, again, surprised that conservatives continue to come back to this question as if it's the most important thing for the federal government to be policing.
Like I said, they can never come up with, they can never say what a woman is. Because as soon as they admit that a trans woman is not an actual woman, and the entire argument goes far out the window. My leftist is constantly reflecting, not primed.
But it
We're not
already
talking about
does
federal.
through Title
Listen,
IX.
we're talking about these are states.
I'm talking
Saying that,
about
hey,
this
we have,
very
hold on, listen,
specific.
no, let me finish. These are states saying that, hey, we have the right to protect women in sports. Now, if sex has no legal meaning, which is what you're saying, then what is the purpose of women's sports? If it doesn't have a meaning, if it's just whoever can decide whatever, then what's the point?
Commercials. Because I don't even know what they're even trying to advertise anymore, to be honest.
I think that ultimately the way that this conversation began, and I know we've strayed from it a little bit, and I still haven't gotten my answer. I'd love to know those
No,
five
we haven't.
champions
We're
that you're
talking
so.
about the actual case. You're
Let me
trying to
finish.
stray away from it with
Let
Epstein.
Jack
The
respond, Greg. Let him
question, the
respond.
I'm trying to
question,
get an answer to what is sex, and if it has no meaning to
the
you,
question
then
was
what is the
one
point of women's sports?
about the
Tell us.
political implications for this issue. And what I see here is the political implications are the right wing is obsessed with young girls, whether that be
Oh.
with Jeffrey Epstein and hanging out as him and Donald Trump did, or talking about them in this abstract way when they're not actually paying attention to women's sports. So, to answer the question that actually began this conversation, to put a little bow on it, and of course, I'm not the host of this, so we can continue the conversation, but I don't think that this is a losing issue
You ready to give
if
up? What is
Republicans are
sex?
making these emotional arguments.
What's emotional about asking you what is sex? That's central to the Supreme Court case. I don't know if you understood the question or the case. Did you actually read about the case and what's going on in the Supreme Court and the question that they're answering? In fact, tell us what is the question that the Supreme
So, anyways, the rest of this section of the debate just goes on and on like that. Fred keeps asking him, what is sex? And Jack's constantly trying to deflect. So, yeah, and my final thoughts about this debate that what? Why is simple? Because the Jack guy had really no real actual argument. He just kept deflecting, kept Trumpism. I've seen this, I've seen that, Trump this, Trump that. It was his entire debate during his entire time. Yeah, it's just a bunch of nonsense, to be honest with you. Greg really had him beaten. Oh yeah, thank you all for watching. Be careful out there. Take care. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Let me know what you like. Let me know what you didn't like. So remember, I love you all. Goodbye.